Georgia, are we ready?
We are ready.
Okay, then we will commence. Um, Good evening, everyone who is joining us from the many places we're all joined here tonight, since we are all in different places. My name is Rick Simonson, and my colleague Karen Maeda Ullman, who is doing all the behind the scenes work, and I work at Eliott Bay Book Company, and we are thrilled and honored to be helping host this year's annual African American Writers Alliance reading. In the 35 or years, whatever it is, Eliott Bay has been producing and presenting readings and writers. There's been no more constant and enduring presence than this series of readings. And this last summer, in the year that it was when people were in touch, in not seeing each other, but somehow reaching out in ways, Georgia McDade, who you hear of and from shortly, wrote me, and there was a bit of history work going on about the African American Writers Alliance, and we were recalling it was actually 30 years ago this year, because it was 1991, that a writer here living in Seattle at the time named Randy Edens came into our bookstore, and I still remember where we were standing in the old store in Pioneer Square, and we were just standing there. It was like one of those meetings you have on the fly, and said, "What about doing this reading of a group reading of different people here in town who are writing different kinds of book writing and everything?" I said, "Sure, let's do it." And we settled on the last Saturday of the month, which almost always it has been. I think one year it slipped into March for some bad scheduling on our part. But
Yeah.
that first time it was February 29th. It was leap year, 1992. So next year we'll really be able to celebrate that. But tonight we're thrilled for the 30th time actually to be hosting this reading, which has always had this great variety of writers, and you will get to see them tonight. Um, and I think tonight is also special because we're doing, this is the first time we've ever done it this way. And yet it brings the same spirit and energy as marked all those evenings. And you who are attending this and watching this are bringing it and can bring it by putting comments and applause and affirmations in the chat and questions when we get to that part. But it's first my pleasure to actually really turn this over to um, Dr. Georgia McDade, who I believe was at that very first reading. She's been a part of the African American Writers Alliance ever since it started. And I know Minnie Collins has probably been around, who's also part of Night since then or almost then. And we'll find out about everyone else's participation in this. But every year it's been a mix of regular presences, but new, and it's had generations have gone through this with almost 30 years that will happen. So uh, Georgia, who is, besides playing this role here herself, is an eminent presence here in Seattle, an esteemed presence as a longtime teacher at Tacoma Community College and the author of a couple of books of her own poetry, Outside the Cave and Outside the Cave 2. And Georgia, I've got to send you an article, the writer Viet Nguyen, who has written good books. He wrote a wonderful thing about community colleges and the part they play in the culture. Anyway, that's an aside. But so tonight, Georgia will set this all in motion, and then you will get to hear from the writers who are here tonight. And Georgia will explain how this is all going to work. But we're glad they're all part of this, and we are glad you are joining us. And again, we encourage comments, but also questions, because we'll try and have a little Q&A at the end with them all answering as they will. And you'll see other information in the chat. Some of the writers may already be putting things in of other readings they're doing or whatnot. But first, to give more background on what AAWA's been and what it will be, please give your good attention and a welcome and virtual applause to Dr. Georgia McDade. Thank you, Georgia.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you very much. Hello. And I'm so glad that all of you've taken the time to come and join us. We are a busy group. We do all kinds of wonderful things. And I just want you to know that one member who has been here many times is Kathia Alexander. And tonight she is reading at the Muslim Association of Puget Sound, MAPS. And that's the first. And I think that's an important first for 3 Saturdays, and 3 times this month. They have had a member from our group read, and I think that's really wonderful. And just last week, I found out that there's a Native American group of writers. I know that there's Mexican, Latino group of writers, and some of them come to our meetings. And I just think this is really, really wonderful. Many people write and they never get a chance to let other people know that they're writing, or other people out of their little circle. So this is different. And I want to say this now because I want everybody to remember that our website is www.AAWA. Then we have a hyphen in there, seattle.org. But I happen to know that if you don't put the org, it'll still work. It'll get you there, okay? And we have a beautiful website thanks to some of our newest members, and it's just marvelous. And you go there and you can find out all kinds of wonderful things. And right now, another first for us is an exhibit at the Heritage Museum in Burien. This exhibit is just amazing, amazing. We've never had an installation, but this is an installation at the Burien Museum, and it will be there through the end of March. It opened this month and it will be there through the end of March. 10 of the members selected an African proverb, quoted that proverb, and then wrote a poem about it. And we have all kinds of memorabilia. It's just, you have to go, you have to see that. It's really wonderful. So I am going to read 2 rather short poems here for me, and then we'll continue. My first poem is called Rigged Elections. Now, I hadn't planned to read this, but I'm just so tired of rigged elections that I thought I'd share some real ones. Native Americans, women, poor white men, Africans, African Americans, Mexican Americans, Chinese. That Bill of Rights, that afterthought became a reality for a reason. Though it's still not a reality for all people everywhere. In the 15th Amendment, 1870, you would think nobody would have a problem now voting. And yet we hear voter suppression every day. De jure does not always mean, or at least it never means de facto, regardless of what we say. Native Americans, women, poor white men, Africans, African Americans, Mexican Americans, Chinese. Still, some people go out of their way to prevent other folks from voting. Elections have indeed been rigged, but trust me, like the man who proclaims he is the least racist, the 2020 election is the least rigged. Thank you. The second one is, I don't know if it's a little bit better. I just call it living, because for some of us, it's so much harder at times than it is for others. Adapt, pivot, stop, migrate, run. Choose any of the above anytime. After the pace, alter the pace of any of the above at any time. Just remember, there are unalterable laws at work all the time. Do anything but die. Repeat one more time if necessary. Repeat again. Do anything but die. All right, thank you very much. Our next reader is Gail Haynes.
Georgia, we may need to, Dr. McDade, we may need to move on to the next reader while Gail is working with a technical issue. So I believe
Gaylloyd.
Hello, my name is Gaylloyd, and The poetry I'm going to read is mostly about nature. I like to write it about nature. And my first poem is Pacific Ocean. Find a quiet place to consume views of the Pacific Ocean, beaches. Stand close and listen to the sounds of waves charging boulders tightly held in sandy shores. There, seconds until the next crash, small crabs scurry from predators. Salty fragrances constantly assault the air from shores of our blue marble, regardless of onshore place. Changes from warm to soft breezes to sharp cold wind offer sea's aroma with every taken or lost breath. The scented air's tactile existence, though unseen, is inhaled, acknowledged, and taken for granted. Along rocky cliffs, guardians of our coastal oceans offer drafts that lift seagulls over shores and along watery boundaries. The gulls echo songs to one another in high-pitched screeches. On a cloudless day, in the distance over noon's sparkling sea, near where the sun falls, nothing else but the earth's edge challenges the circumference on which the horizon lay. Admire eastern mountains from coastal cliffs. Different color soils tattle minerals. Trees grow dressed in seasonal still green. Other plants sport new leaves. Flowers in delightful hues thrive from the mountains down to the coast, endeared by the changing weather off beaches, far away beneath them. My next, thank you. Microplastic is the title of the next one. Tumbling muted rumblings through the ocean waters. Ingested or not, tiny plastic makes its ways to the ocean's floor and collects. From the watery shores on avalanche pours the death of species never known. I know that's sad. This one is Spiders in My Yard. Cobwebs in your face, not created to stop you, but remove pests you abhor. Design with beauty, intricate circles purposely connects one strand to another. An annoying webbing nuisance established across your path between tree branches and your face. Spider webs, not all circles, depending on spider species. Some spin tangled webs like some events in life. And then my last one, and this is especially for gardeners. The weeds are winning. It's a war. Fighting an enemy that keeps coming back makes me feel like I'm losing. Man against weed. I think the weeds know they're going to win. It's a matter of numbers. There's more of them than me. But I come out, put on my gloves, and use all the weapons I have. Thank you.
Gail Haynes is next.
I apologize, I cannot seem to get the video back, so it's a technical difficulty. So do you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. I'm not sure what's going on. I probably need to get another computer. Okay, I'm going to read Seasons to Rise. Seasons, dispensations of life. We are living in a world with much chaos, turmoil, and strife. Blind hate has found a path into many lives. Skin color, not the depth of one's heart or their mind, causes people to judge our ways. Deception layered with hate and lies. My prayer is that people will not only see, but open their spiritual eyes. My beautiful mahogany black brothers and sisters, I celebrate. My sweet cornbread brown people, I can relate. Only God knows your fate. I see the tears in your eyes, concerned if your children will arrive home alive. I share the pain in your soul. The world can be mean, unloving, and cold. Let's embrace and remember our ancestors of times old, who risked their lives, bled, fought, cried, and died, that we may come forth to stand and rise. Be encouraged, my brothers and sisters, and dry those weeping eyes. Put your hands on your hips, but don't let your backbone slide. You must stand strong and tall, but if the pain is too great and causes you to fall, and all you can do is muster up a crawl with dignity, crawl with pride. Stand up on the inside and rise. Rise with determination, rise above hate, allow peace, love to fill your heart with victory to celebrate.
Thank you, Gail.
Okay. I'm gonna have to leave the meeting, but thank you.
Okay. Helen Collier is next.
Okay. This is a flat screen. Okay. All right. My name is Helen Collier. In honor of Black History Month, I will be reading to you from my novel, The Unexpected, which is the first of two series. The second novel is entitled The Unexpected 2, 2020, When the Face of America Changed. In The Unexpected, my protagonist is a white female college student enrolled in a Black history class. Her assignment is to research and give an oral report on the life of the African female slave in America. 3 African-American students in class wait impatiently to determine if her report gives a true and accurate account of the slave woman's life. I plan to read you an excerpt of her report. Everything that has occurred in this country is every American's history, good and bad. It is about us as a people and the choices and decisions made by our ancestors hundreds of years ago. Those choices and decisions have brought us to the present day. My report speaks of one aspect of that history, the life of the American female slave. My research led me to a time in history I had no understanding of. It isn't that I didn't know this period in history happened, but now realize why it is history we as white Americans no longer want to discuss. My findings mandated that I ask one of the most disturbing questions of history. How much mind altering did it take to convince an entire nation of people that building our country through the suffering, mutilization, rape, and enslavement of other humans was their Christian duty? I say nation because the North is as much a part of this history as the South. A tragic history that as a white American, I must revisit centuries later. Had it not been for my thorough research, one could never have made me believe slavery for the slave woman could have possibly been that horrific. Her life was the worst in the history of our nation for any woman to endure. She endured it for nearly 300 years. In the cotton field, she toiled while carrying babies soon to be born. Treated worse than if she were an animal, work for this female started before daybreak. In fields and in plantation houses, she slaved only to return to her shack, unable to sufficiently feed herself and her children. While it is true some female slaves lived inside the master's house, even those slaves could be summoned at any time for any reason. Their duties had to be fulfilled day or night, just as if they were working in the fields. Their lives, just as those in the field, belonged to their masters. Though their work differed, the treatment they received played out the same. No woman in this room can imagine giving birth to babies owned by someone else, babies that could be sold at any time for any reason. The slave woman's most important job was having children owned by only her master. Her womb was oiled with the sperms of any slave or white male her body was mated with. She was sexually exploited by many races of men for nearly 3 centuries. It is American history, a way of life drawn up for the slave woman through no fault of her own. The female slave became the means by which the slave masters replenished their labor force. Her body was used to give birth for anyone who owned her. Her body was, sometimes being sold 7 or 8 times before her death. If her master or mistress were lucky, many of their slave women produced 20 or more babies in their lifetime, most sold away from them. The slave family concept was not real because a slave could be sold at any time. Slave fathers' ability to protect their families were for the most part unheard of. Like with any of the slave master's animals, the male had no say in the birth he was responsible for. Slave owners had no need for real families or slave fathers because all slaves belonged to them. Most mating of the female took place with multiple mates so that no father could be known. Even when the pregnancy resulted from the master's mating with the female, those babies were sold the same as the rest. No difference was made between the slave master's children and the children by the slave male. If the slave master or his mistress chose to sell a slave, black or white, they were sold. The slave woman gave birth, not knowing how long her children would be with her before they were sold. Children she begged to be allowed to keep. She was born in this country with no understanding of what race meant or why it sealed her fate to live the life of a slave until her death. No female on this earth should have had to endure those conditions. Yet, it is our nation's history, a history that should never be forgotten or repeated on this planet. There is always a power beyond human depravity. God in his mercy graced the slave woman with love for the children who came and went from her body, her arms, and soon her life. For her children, she lived colorblind, loving them no matter what color or condition they came to her. She held that little bit of love under her breast, a love that burned in her heart long after they were sold. It was a love that could not be destroyed, even though many times it came to her whitewashed. It is our country's history, a history where American women existed in skeletal bodies, producing babies to ensure the survival of free labor for this nation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we go to Jacqueline Ware, who writes all kinds of things.
I do write all kinds of things, but the thing I'm reading tonight is titled In My Voice. That brother was shot. He was shot 16 times while crumpled on the ground. I ain't lying. He went down on the first, but the bullets kept flying. His mama and siblings found out nothing but, Lord, please. Heaven couldn't quiet their screams and crying. Our brothers out here on these streets are dying, dying, driving, dying at a stoplight, dying, jogging, dying in your own apartment. Ongoing bombardment. Selling cigarettes, eating Skittles, and drinking sweet tea, strangled by a knee. A lethal headlock, sitting on the stoop on the block. Hung up on a tree, pulled behind a truck, the killings won't stop, no matter what. By the hundreds every year, this right here is the pandemic, a COVID disease, the murder of Black folks with such indifference and ease. But this ain't nothing new. Black women and men, it's an everyday reality, fighting against white fantasies and fallacies, living with rage, anger, heartache in the face of ongoing tragedies they shouldn't mean. They shouldn't mean the bitter end, no clout, no power, no way to whitewash our skin, the hate. The hate, an incurable terminal illness leading to civil war, creating the Black Panther Party in 1966, not coming close to the irrational violence on January 6th. But where did all this depravity begin? How does a seek and destroy mentality end? White on white, black on black, white on black, and other cultures, ethnicities, and colors traveling down the same destructive, murderous track. So much and many to blame, pointing fingers at capitalism, systemic racism, named individuals void of guilt, morals, or shame. But then there are the artists and poets leading the charge, sounding the alarm, blowing trumpets, marching around a masquerade ball, trusting, believing the tyrants will fall under the suffocating weight of their own self-imposed hate, the harmonies of liberty snatched from throats closed to the thought, to liberation raising a different flag, voices have desperately sought. Let Sanchez rise and my voice drop in gems. Let Nikki Giovanni bring in the choir, members on the pew shouting hallelujah, amen. Let Catherine Cleaver preach of possibilities, an insatiable need, a growing yearning to shed the shackles of racism and bigotry. Let us bang drums, bring out the pots and pans, let Maya be on fire in my throat, marching and matching her brilliance, note by note. Let the bones of Olivia Bush rattle with approval from her grave, applauding that I was also courageous and brave. Let my voice speak truth with uncompromising flair. Let poetry be our song, our refuge, our daily prayer. Thank you. This is J.M. Kennedy speaking.
Thank you so much, so very, very much. And that poem reminded me that our latest anthology is Voices That Matter. Okay. Next, we have Dr. James Macon, who's joining us for the first time here. Novelist, Dr. Macon.
Thank you. My name is James T. Macon. I'll be reading from my book, Purveyors and Acquirers. I'm a fantasy author. I write fantasy with a touch of mystery. This is the first book in the Fossfire Journeys. There are currently 4 books out. The 5th book will be out later this year. In the port city of Orlando, Zeal, an orphan with a mysterious benefactor, is an apprentice in a shadowy organization known as the Trade. Through his training, mentorship, and natural skill, he rapidly becomes adept at procuring possessions and secrets that belong to others. When one of his fellow apprentices is kidnapped by a group preying on Orlando's children, Zill's mentors discover to their surprise that the kidnappers are using the conjuring arts to carry out their nefarious plot. Although the apprentices are instructed to stay out of the matter and not endanger themselves further, Zill and his fellow novices cannot stand aside. How can they, when their specific, intensive training can be used to help their friend? Against their mentor's wishes and in accordance with their lessons, the apprentices plan and act in secret. As they fight the threat to their trade family, Zill and his cohorts meet adventure at every turn, while Zill discovers he has unusual powers of his own, including the ability to talk to the dead. Chapter 1. She awakened, having fallen asleep in the cushioned wicker chair, still too tired to react to the soft sound that had disturbed her slumber. The strong aroma of unwashed body assaulted her senses. She started to turn her head to look for the source when a knife slashed. She was caught unaware. Twice he struck her in the back. The sharp pain she felt stole her breath away, and she was unable to cry out. The men wielding the knife pushed her to the ground, not bothering to finish his work. While she watched, he quickly searched the room, ignoring the babe in the cradle across from her. The infant's eyes opened. He startled when he caught sight of the stranger. She wondered what the man could be looking for. He stopped, then turned to study her. Blood frothed from between her pale lips as he reached for the lantern on a nearby table. Her green eyes opened wide in shock. All she was able to do was stare at the assailant who stood between her and the infant. She could only think of her babe and slowly reached her trembling hand toward him. I wasn't told about the child. The man smiled as he opened the lantern and casually emptied the oil around the room. He then removed a tinder twig from the pouch on his belt, flicked the twig with his nail to light it, and set the oil aflame. She could not turn her head far enough to keep track of her attacker when he stepped behind her and walked quietly out the rear door of the one-room cottage. The man slammed the door behind him. The woman, with agonizing slowness, dragged herself toward her babe. The low cradle rocked when the child reached out toward his mother and smiled. A cloaked, hooded figure stood in a doorway that wasn't present in her cottage before the attack. The silent observer made no attempt to come to her aid as she used the cradle to pull herself up onto her knees. Gently, she lifted the babe out of his sleeper. Her blood washed over him as she held him close, her last breath given to him as a blessing before her struggle for life ended. Her body relaxed, allowing the infant to roll out of her limp arms onto the floor next to her. The flames rose around them, consuming the cottage's walls. Smoke thickened as it swirled around the room. The cloaked, hooded figure strode to the pair. The blaze spread by the burning oil danced away from him, never touching, but springing back into place with his passing. With a caress, he closed the mother's eyes and took the babe into his arms. He rose and walked back through the doorway, which disappeared from the wall as though it never existed. The flames claimed the small home and the young mother. As the fire consumed her, a fiery female rose up from her body, stood, and stretched. The blazing woman smiled before shrinking to a mote the size of a fingertip. Glowing brightly, the ember, all that remained of the woman, rose skyward on heated currents of air through the remains of the thatched roof. Unfortunately, I have to stop there. More information can be obtained at my website at jdmacon.com.
Thank
you.
Thank you very much. Okay. And now we go to Margaret. Barrie.
Hello. Bus number 17. In the late afternoon, after class, my friend and I left the university and walked across the street to the number 17 bus stop. The number 17 travels to the Northwest District of Portland, like Capitol Hill in Seattle, a combination of upscale restaurants, organic grocery stores, boutiques, and old Victorian-shaped houses with tall shade trees lining the streets, and new pop-up metal condos with drought-resistant grasses lining the avenues. We were talking about our report as the bus arrived. We boarded, showed our passes, and sat down. We're steeped in our chat when we pause and notice the bus isn't moving. We couldn't help but hear the argument between the bus driver and the young lady standing in the stairwell. Please step out of the stairwell now. You just do what you gotta do. I'm not moving this bus till you step out of the stairwell. I don't see why not. We knew right then and there that the bus was not moving until she stepped out of the stairwell. The driver was following protocol. Standing in the stairwell is dangerous. If the bus was moving, she would have fallen out. She was dressed in a plain white blouse and a pretty gray A-line skirt that fit her young, slim body very nicely. I looked around at the other passengers. Some decided to leave and others stayed like me and my colleague. We were quietly wondering how we could intervene, given that we were steeped in social issues and had a need to act on something. So we talked about it and we hesitated. We talked about it some more and we hesitated. And, again, and meantime, we heard the driver call the police. I said, I'm going back. I stood up and went back to the stairwell. Excuse me, young lady, can I talk to you? She said, yes. The bus driver's not gonna move the bus until you step out of that stairwell. And it would be a good idea if you did so we can keep going. And I think he just called the police. Would you please step out of the stairwell? And she said, yes. I said, and then the driver said, it's too late. The police have been called. I have to wait till they arrive. It didn't take no time for the officer to come up on board the bus. And all of a sudden, the driver and the young lady in the stairwell started talking like siblings, all over top of each other, arguing and defending their view. And I felt fear. I remember what I heard on the news about Black citizens in this country being in an altercation with police were killed. Though this officer didn't seem like he was threatening, though my fear was still there. He said, please speak one at a time. And they did. He assessed the situation and then gave us all a talk about the protocol of the metro system, that the bus driver is in charge of their buses and they have to follow the rules too. And also, I can't stand in that stairwell on a moving bus either. I'm not allowed to do that. Consequently, he had to ask her to leave the bus. And she left the bus willingly. She left the bus willingly. And I watched her walk down the street on the sidewalk as the bus moved slowly downtown into peak hour traffic. She was holding her head up high and she looked very proud. That day felt like a gentleness. I felt something with the driver and the young lady and the police officer and all the passengers on the bus. A gentleness felt, an honor to humanity, that a conflict can be resolved without a fatality. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Margaret. And now we go to Merri Ann Osborne.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. I wanted to share a part 2 of a 3-part story that I'm working on. This is a work in progress, and it was inspired by what Georgia mentioned earlier, our exhibit in Burien with the African proverbs, Black lives have always mattered, the wisdom of African proverbs. So I wrote a part 1, and this is a part 2, and it's a dystopian fictional account of 3 different perspectives of current events that are taking place and near future events. And this one is based on the the African proverb, "He that beats the drum for the madman to dance is no better than the madman himself." And this is part 2, and you can view all 10 of us reading part when you visit our website. And here's part 2 of the continuation of the story. Jack and I sat on the ground, our backs resting against the rocky walls of the cave. We waited quietly in the dark for Richard to come back with fresh food and water. After our car broke down, the 3 of us had trudged through the desert, eventually finding our way to this musty sanctuary, a place to rest and hide before continuing on to Colorado. Richard had built a safe house there, hidden away and secure from the chaos taking place in the country. "Will we make it to Colorado, Grandpa?" Jack asked, his teeth shivering with cold. "We'll get there, Jack," I said softly, wrapping my arm around him and pulling him in close. I felt his body relax and his trembling stop. Soon I heard him gently snoring, falling asleep from the comfort of my lie. I don't know if we would make it to Richard's safe house. What I did know was that I had told Jack lie after lie since we escaped from Washington, D.C. I convinced myself it was necessary to lie for our survival, but in the silent depths of the cave's darkness, I realized I had been lying for a long time, especially to myself, and the lies had finally caught up to me. A few years ago, as one of the most powerful men in America, I was focused on making our immoral country moral again. But over time, something shifted. Like the day I pledged to do my duty and follow the Constitution, on that day, a mad mob came into the house, shouting my name from their bitter lips. I barely survived. But I ignored the warnings of that day and all the warning signs that came after. And now my family and so many innocent people had paid the price. Thank God Jack had survived. He was all the family I had left, so I thought, but I was wrong. Richard had become family too. No, Richard was more like a guardian angel. From the first day he was assigned from the agency to protect our family, he's been there for us. And on the day of reckoning, he rescued Jack and I from the kidnappers who had killed everyone we loved, got us into a stolen car and drove us out of the burning city in the dark of night. Without him, we would be dead. The next day, as the sun was rising, Richard began laying down the rules that would keep us alive. "We have new names now, understand?" he said to us, his hands tight on the steering wheel, his eyes focused on the road. "I'm Richard, you're Jack," he said, looking in the rearview mirror to my grandson who sat in the back seat. And without turning to talk to me on the passenger side, he said simply, "You're Gideon." On day number 2 came rule number 2. "Gideon, say goodbye to your hair." My instantly recognizable hair was a liability, so he pulled off to a side road, stopped the car, and shaved it off until I was bald. Jack stared at me and then looked down at my hair covering the ground. Its color, like the silver of a newly minted nickel, sparkled in the sunlight. Later that day, Richard had told me that he had found a deck of cards on the dead body of one of the kidnappers. He knew immediately what the cards meant. Richard had served in Iraq in 2003 when playing cards were given to troops to identify the most wanted members of Saddam Hussein's family and government. But the cards he found weren't of Iraqi faces. They were the faces of American politicians and government workers. And the two of clubs had my face. People were hunting me down for bragging rights. We never told Jack about the deck of cards. As we drove further west, the news on the radio grew worse. Riots, executions, cities burning down, power outages, and food shortages. But it just wasn't in the United States. Things were falling apart all over the world. Sometimes we took back roads, but the riskiest times was when we stopped for food and gas. If we encountered anyone, I kept my head down and let Richard do all the talking. Everyone was suspicious, scared, or confused, and everyone was armed. When the car finally ran out of gas in New Mexico, I thought it was all over. How were we going to make it over the desert to Colorado? But as always, Richard had something up his sleeve. I'm calling in a favor from a friend who lives a few miles from here, he told us once we were hidden securely in the cave. Stay here and I'll be back soon with supplies. That was a day ago. Lord, I prayed silently, we have come so far. Please keep Richard safe. The sound of a car parking came from the entrance of a cave. Someone was coming. I reached for the gun in my pocket, ready to kill if needed, anything to keep Jack alive, even if it meant my own death. But I didn't have to worry about that. Richard had come back. He found us professionally through the darkness and sat down. I could smell his sweat from not having washed from days. None of us had washed for days. He gave each of us a canteen full of cool water. We drank in silence, and then he handed a sandwich to Jack. While Jack ate, he pulled me aside. Gideon, he whispered. They killed him. That's the end. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Looking forward to 1 and 3. And our next reader is Minnie Collins.
Yes. Thank you so much, all who are participating. We are delighted to see all of you and to hear your Q&A and comments. I'm going to read 3 short poems. Most of us were at home when we had our snowfall 10 days or so ago, and I was inspired to write this short poem. Spellbinders. Drifting on street-light rhythms, bonding friend and foe, sculpting magical joy, 4-feet layer hedge cakes with 2-inch crystal frostings, topped with cool whipped laurel, sprinkled with holly. Whisk meringue, topped hydrangeas, rainbow ribbon candy, sparkle ice, and lemon sorbet ponds. Soon there were dunes for inner tubes and radio flyers, conifer canopies, sheltering seas for those scurrying footprints, replenishing thirsty tubers, soon by spring longing for sun. Jack Frost, spellbinders on a snowy day. And the next one is called Here We Stand on Liberty Ground. This is a shortened version of the plaques that are on the Liberty Bank building apartments on 24th and Union. This short version is on one of Al Dockett's posters to commemorate the Liberty Bank. Here we stand on indigenous land. Here heritage and legacy sustain courage, creativity, and challenges. Redlining no more, racial covenants outlawed. Economic accomplishments for cross-cultural communities. Central District pioneers and entrepreneurs since 1860, forging heart, family, faith, spirit, and soul. Among you still, endure we will, making plans, developing partners, coalitions, and having our say at those decision tables. Definitely voting. Pan-Africans, keep coming on, keep coming on, keep coming on. And then the last one, I call it Revolution Dialogue. COVID-19, you exposed us. You revealed America's skeletons in the closet. The closet shut, closed, ignored all of the narratives and realities, all connected to our achieving the American dream. Television, promoter of COVID-19, we are coughed, shamed, quarantined, flattened like a curve, mask and shield protected suspects. We become doom scrollers of endless infodemic fake news, frightened by empty shelves, edged into hoarders, yet told to be strong. Really? How might I ask? They say revolution is revolting. I say revolution is positive. They say revolution is destructive. The old folks say it ain't the way it used to be. Some young people say that too. Like goats, using anything as a scapegoat, high on those shaky ground on false realities. I say it's liberating transformation. I say revolution revolves and evolves. Revolutions spin, turn over those minds, working out the kinks and the knots. Revolution is a vaccine against inequities. You say, they say that too? I don't believe they take my jobs, but that's what they say. You say they take my admissions in colleges. They say we don't need any affirmative action, diversity training. I say we all need a temperature check and a positive or negative virus test to try to be immune to what they say or even what I say. But more about what we plan to do for this transformation, because we are definitely not in this together. Revolution is revolving. Revolution is positive. Thank you.
Thank you, Minnie. Thank you very much. I see someone mentioned one of the books. If you go to our website, you can find the books that we've written. And there, well, I think there are more of us here who have written books than have not. And I give them, well, it's not a hard time. I do encourage everybody to write books. So check out the website. Remember, it's the www.AAWA-Seattle.org. Okay, next we have Monique Franklin. We haven't heard from Monique in a long time. She will show her stuff tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone who's gone so far and everyone who will go after. It's always an honor to present with you at the African American Writers Alliance. My first piece is called Call and Response. I am the ages unfolding into eternity. I am the sacred soul that birthed every ancient ancestor of humankind. I am the sacred soil enriched with the memory of their voices, impregnated with their intellectual remains. Humanity in its infancy, was a beautiful, brilliant Black child. They were the forebearers of thought, the developers of science, the inventors of technology, the architects of society, the explorers of spirituality, the curators of culture, and the producers of art. I am the divine mother. I am the more in your veins, the rhythm in your soul, the calling you home, whispering from a distant shore, you are great, you are powerful, you are divine. Calling you to be great, calling you to continue to create, to be world makers, calling you to continue to educate, to elucidate the truth, to take action. Zora Neale Hurston said, there are years that ask questions and there are years that answer. It is a call and response. There are years that the ancestors called. Will you be a slave? Frederick Douglass educated himself and ran away to find his freedom. There are years that ask questions and there are years that answer. Will you allow others to be enslaved? Harriet Tubman risked her life to lead people to freedom. She said, I freed 1,000 slaves, but I could have freed 1,000 more if only they had known they were slaves. There are years that ask questions and the years that answer. Will women have the same rights as men? Sojourner Truth said, well, ain't I a woman? Will you allow people to be lynched? Ida B. Wells wrote about it. Billie Holiday sang, Southern trees bear a strange fruits. There are years that ask questions and there are years that answers. Will you educate? Will I educate myself? Historically Black colleges across the nation rose to the challenge. Will I fight in this war? Muhammad Ali was a conscientious objector. There are years that ask questions and there are years that answer. Will I eat at this lunch counter? Will I ride in the back of this bus? Will I vote? Will I integrate this school? Will I raise a fist? There are years that ask questions. Will I protest? Nina Simone said, Mississippi, goddamn. Will I burn it down? Watts, Detroit, New York. Will I organize? Bayard Rustin was the lead organizer of the March on Washington. There are years that ask questions and there are years that answer. Will you protect the water and the earth? Will you hold the police accountable? Will you value the lives of all Black people? Will you take a knee? Will you watch the Super Bowl? Will you allow human trafficking? Will you listen to R. Kelly? Will you protect children? Will you provide sanctuary? Will you build a wall? Or will you allow others to be enslaved? Will you allow the prison industrial complex to continue? Will you build a healthy community? Will you be a slave? There are years that ask questions and there are years that answer. That's my first piece and I'm checking my time. So I had 2 more pieces up, but I'm just going to choose one of them.
You have time. You have time.
Thank you, George. I recently took a beautiful trip to St. Lucia and spent 2 months there. And I spent there to heal. Spent time there to heal and to be creative again. And so this is a piece that is that kind of brings together a few of my writings. Breathe. My breath shares a rhythm with the waves. It sounds like water pulling and pushing the shore, flowing in and out of my body, a symphony of filling and emptying. I notice there are soloists in the world competing to be in this simple orchestra of the lungs. Birds chirping, hammers swinging, percussion, inner thoughts forming on the top of the wave of oxygen as I send it out to sea far away from me as I exhale, leaving me to be with me. Leaving me to be with each breath, with each moment of nothing, with each blank canvas. I learned the lesson of renewal. I live the lesson of choosing emptiness so I can choose to be full. I'm wrapped in the harmony of all my cells being nurtured and loved and healed and prepared for the greatness of this day will be. Breathe. 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 Clouds are a beautiful water transportation device. From white to gray, any color the world has to offer, reflecting back beauty on every facet. A single cloud could be both earth and sky, ocean and moon, sun. All the clouds are playing follow the leader, riding a flow. They are just going to go. So slow it doesn't even seem forced, but willed. I've never seen a cloud break formation. I've never seen a cloud trying to go back there, wherever all the clouds come from, beyond the hills and the mountains. I wonder if over the ocean, cloud sees its own reflection, and if it's yearning to tumble and flip and move, or if the ocean looks up, leave behind the salt of the earth and rise. Water lives in many lives, fresh, grounded, falling, floating, traveling, worshiping, trickling, flooding, rising, greeting, retreating, flowing motion, still, solid, chill. I'm grateful to witness your transformations. I'm blessed to be a bottled cloud, a walking ocean, a peaceful iceberg, a dancing hurricane. I'm blessed to begin again and never lose the essence of who I am. And I empty that sound into my soul, and I animate me. I move, I am moving, passion pressed against my pigment, painted in sweat. I have the pleasure to labor, to chisel a new me with every step, to give my spirit a feast of possible, of invention, of I am full of intention. And I'm joining myself in being myself, deep in love, deep in breath, deep in the ocean, deep in the earth, deep in the deep of my mind. And I find the gems that time and effort make shine. Simply, I smile. I have one more short one. Georgia, do I have enough time?
Yes, yes.
This one is called The Flowers You Sent. Georgia asked me about love poems. This is a not love poem.
Thank you.
The flowers you sent me are still in the box. I imagine they died after a few days, without sunlight, without water, but surely after weeks, a week's time, isolated from sound, there's no reviving them now, having been cut from their roots. Do you think flowers feel pain? Friendships are like flowers, laughter, a warm sun to lean into, healing, a watershed of tears leading to growth. Together or apart still finds us better and stronger than we were. I hope you hear. But to put friendship in a box and to never speak of it. People die after a mere week without water. 75 days is an impossible drought. 75 days is a winter without end for a sunflower like me. No breeze, not even a whisper in my direction, no note, no care instructions. That's how you left us in a box with no name. How did you imagine we would grow? I understand now that our friendship was the seed you never planted, that you care for flowers that only bloom at night. I'm sorry you don't see that I am so much more than that. I'm sorry that my agency and sovereignty are offensive to you. I'm not sorry that I am free and I choose peace and that I know the difference between love and ownership. I'm not sorry that I love you. My humanity requires it. I am sorry that I was a mere flex in your litany of acquisitions. I hope you can one day acquire yourself so that you can activate your agency and sovereignty. And perhaps then you'd see your hand in this, how you pulled up a wildflower because you thought I was a weed. I do not know how you feel about me, but love is not a 75-day silence. Love is not playing the victim when you're the perpetrator. Love is not a lie, lying, or a liar. Love is consent. Love does not hide, and I deserve love. I deserve to be loved by those who value me and cherish me every moment of my existence while I'm here.
Okay, Monique, you have another assignment. Write another love poem. All right, we are moving along well here. Next is Noni Ervin.
Hello, good evening. Wow, that was great. That's my favorite, not a love poem. This, I do have published work in poetry in Verbatim, a collection of poetry about living, loving, and surviving. In the loving, almost the entire chapter is poems that I wrote to my then fiance at the time, and then husband at the time, and then and who we've been married for 20 years. And I wanted to do a love poem, but I was really conflicted because when he asked me what will make the most impact, I have to do this one because it's still not, I'm not done with it yet. This is called I Am Human. I was already traumatized before I learned of 17-year-old Trayvon Martin on February 26, 2012. I'm the mother of 2 Black boys. I was in my corporate office on the 12th floor when the verdict came in on July 13th, 2013. I couldn't stop crying. I couldn't hold it together. I couldn't find any safe place, except that my dear friend, my sister, came in to check on me. I didn't even realize that I wasn't holding my own weight until I opened my eyes. I was already on edge before I caught word of 12-year-old Tamir Rice on November 22nd, 2014. Obviously, I cannot control most things. I did not want to suffocate my sons, young Black men who are growing up with love because of how their family sees them, and in ever-present danger because of how the world sees them. When they leave the house, my heart leaves with them. I am continually in prayer until they return to me. I look at them and imagine their future, hopeful that I will see grandchildren and great-grandchildren, still full of faith, in spite of where I stand. These United States of America, land of the, well, let's move on. I am human. Yesterday was hard for all of us. Wish I could stop playing that song on repeat again and again. I was already raw before I watched 32-year-old Philando Castile bleed out during a traffic stop on July 6, 2016. It was surreal, streaming live to whoever would watch. I remember thinking, oh my God, I hope there's no babies in the car. Then I heard the tiniest voice say, it's okay, mommy. It's okay, I'm right here with you. I was so sorry for that baby girl. I was so sorry for that woman, not even able to process what was actually happening, saddened by the loss of life. Was my brother. My brother. He is my father, my friend, my son, and the cameras have always been on. I wish I could have been outraged, but no. It was just another Wednesday, and none of this was new. I was completely disoriented when I heard the report of 26-year-old Breonna Taylor from March 13th, 2020. There's still no way for me to wrap my head around this. I am all the way numb, deadened, stunned, stupefied. I was past the tipping point before the playback of George Floyd's last moments on May 25th, 2018. No more, turn it off. 3 seconds is where I max out. Murdered my brother. That is 8 minutes and 46 seconds that I may never be able to watch. I am human. You know, neither of my parents was about that nonviolent stuff. Sure, the current and older version of my Baba, my dad, is able to remain calm, but not like when he was young. They named him Oteya Riyaje Sogea, meaning one who dreams about a vision and moves on it. I am mindful of how and when I move. When Dr. Martin Luther King said, if you can't come down here and be nonviolent, don't come. My mama and my Baba turned around. I am their only daughter and probably the only one of their children that is the perfect balance of them both. I fortunately and unfortunately have seen them in action. know what they are capable of. Follows that I know what I am capable of. I am human. I am only human.
That's the only one, Noni? We're running a little ahead of time, so it's okay. Last, you want to read another one?
I have one, and then if you, are you gonna go
Yes.
around the room? Okay. This one is called I Love You, Sis. On this day, within 24 hours, I had a dear friend have a tragedy in her family, another friend who had a tragedy in her marriage, and another one who had a wonderful announcement with her business. And I didn't know what to say except this. I love you, sis. I meant to tell you this earlier today. If it's something that you need to hear, then copy and paste it in your favorite place so you can read it over and over again. If it's not helpful today, then go ahead and hold on to it for later, maybe tomorrow or the day after. It's fully transferable and fully redeemable. You can share it with anyone you like at any time and for any reason. It also multiplies, so no need to hold back. Just something I really wanted you to know today. You can keep it with you in your pocket, in your handbag, or even in your glove compartment. You can add it to your water or put it in your smoothie. You can sprinkle it on whatever you're cooking tonight or drizzle it on your favorite treat. It goes great with a cup of coffee or your favorite tea. I really felt like I needed to tell you this today. This is unrestricted, so you can be any day of the week or any season of the year or any holiday. It makes no difference about current events or what's happening in the news. You can be young or old, happy or sad, having a good day or one that's not so good. I just had to let you know today, I love you, sis. You are absolutely loved. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, don't forget to check out our website. You can get great information and subscribe to our newsletter. Put it on your calendar and you won't have to do anything ever again. It'll just keep coming to you. Now, we're a little bit early, but I don't know how many questions we have, but I'm going to turn it over to Rick and maybe we can read a little more, maybe not, but Rick.
Santiago.
Santiago, you have one more.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know. I saw him down there and I remember to. Santiago, last but definitely not least.
Subtle hint, huh?
Thank
Okay.
you,
You know, of course, I just finished this at 7. So this is going to be the first read because it's just got done. Tried to squeeze this into 5 minutes. So this is going to be the first of probably many on this subject because it just blows me away. This is, there was a song in the 60s called Society's Child, which was written by a 14-year-old young girl, which is about a relationship between a Euro-American girl and an Afro-American boy. And because of that song, there was all kinds of backlash. And she actually she got death threats over it. Can you imagine? She was going on tour. She was 15 and she got death threats, and amongst other things. So anyway, this is my take. She said, I can't see you anymore. And bigots firebombed a radio station in Atlanta. I can't see you anymore. Pretty white girl that they would rather kill than have her kiss a black Santa. Janice Ian wrote the song at 14. To the small-brained and penised boys in power, it sounds obscene. Because they were worried that little white girls all over the country will do the same thing. Yeah, little white girls all over the country might listen to Change from Sam Cooke or a speech by Reverend King. Yeah, they might see that segregation was destined to keep natural allies apart. It was designed to stop chocolate spices from altering the sensual palates of her vanilla-tinged heart. That year, white DJs were brutally beaten for playing her song because she exposed the seminal lie of so-called white supremacy. The one that says we can't get along. The one that says there's nothing in common between you and me. So they showed up to her concerts and shouted, "Nigger lover, we're going to kill you. Your age makes no difference to us." They were too worried that I would thrill you. Once my beautiful bronze skin stepped off the integrated bus. If white boys are superior, what for are the walls? Wouldn't they just ignore us? Could it be they have really, really small balls and can clandestinely adore us? Their obsession with genitalia and size is something that they themselves created. It's not that I'm bigger, I'm just more wise. It ain't that complicated. See, you put your time into greedy Jeff Bezos' material wealth. My brain power goes into love and liberation. You have little or no psychosocial or physical health. And your object of lust naturally comes to me for salvation. So when a present girl of 14 years exposes you for the fraud that you are and triggers your reptilian brains guided by fears that the humble, once enslaved one is the true star. You seek to kill the messenger with your acts of naked hate. You seek to kill the messenger, but baby, it's too late. 'Cause I can't see you anymore has changed to Kamala and Barack. Yes, I can't see you anymore is obsolete, out of stock. Because I'm your president, vice president, CEO. I'm Neil deGrasse and the brainiac and lover too. I have flourished wherever I go. So goodbye, Tiki Torch Boy, to Lou. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Santiago. I don't know how I could never ever forget you. If you'd like to hear more of our poetry, our stories, by all means, join us on the second Sunday of every month, but May, Mother's Day, and August, when we just take a break. But every Sunday at 2:00. We did not miss a Sunday. When the pandemic came, we went virtual, and we've been doing it all along. And the other good part of Writers Read is that we have open mic. So if you have something you'd like to come and read, we will happily listen to you. Ordinarily, we meet at the Columbia Branch Library, and they're still in touch with us. Promise to let us know as soon as we can come back, and we'll probably go back. But in the meantime, here we are. So don't forget to check the website. Now, is that everybody? Okay, it's I said 8:30 and we're almost there. I have 8:24, but I was just looking in the chat and there are a number of people out there who are my friends. And I guess if you aren't my friend, you're the friend of somebody else who's reading. And we really appreciate your taking the time. I saw some people who I have not seen before. They know about it, but for all kinds of reasons, they can't. And I think with the virtual readings, we should have hundreds of people, because as one of my friends said, they're just at home. They don't have anything to do. And I want so much to invite her to my house to show her that I have something else to do. But now I'm turning it over to Rick or Karen for the questions.
Thank you, Georgia. I'm going through the chat. There's a lot of comments and a lot of applause, but not questions so much, which I think is sort of what happens on the nights of the readings, where I think everyone has had so much to take in, and you get the little bits of everybody, and you're still going from there's this and there was that, and it takes a while to collect. And I guess when we're all in the same room, you do get to walk up and just ask someone quietly. So I don't think questions always appear, at least in the moment. I think this is one of those ones where people carry it around for a bit and think about it. And I think that there are other programs, other times when you're meeting and doing things, it's more of a continual conversation than here this is. Since I'm not seeing any questions, I mean, we may be at the point where we're going to say goodnight. It's been great though to hear everybody. And Sybil's just saying she wished she could read some of the poetry I heard tonight. I assume the website has more information on where you can read everybody's work. Karen's put that in there again, and including people's own websites. I mean, everyone's own websites are linked into that. So because you've gotten here from books. Yes, Noni.
Right. Well, we're writers. And so we all have more reading that we could do. I don't know what time we were planning on turning off the lights, but just you don't feel obligated if there's no questions. Of course, there are others, I'm sure, who have more poetry to read.
All of us have more to read, but I would like the audience to know what we've written. All of us who happen to have books on the website. The group has written 5 anthologies. I think, 5 anthologies in 30 years, considering we hadn't done such things at the beginning. But, well, you tell those of you who've written books. Why don't we start, at least on my screen at the bottom, with Monique. Tell us your books. The titles of your books.
Definitely.
So many.
I have 2 chapbooks. One is called Acoustic Accolades, Volume 1. And it also is a live album that I recorded with the jazz band called also Acoustic Accolades, Volume 1. You can find that work on verbaloasis.com. And then I also have an erotic book of poems called The Erotic Annals of a Poet.
Okay. Noni, you tell us again yours.
I have a verbatim, a collection. It's called Living, Loving, and Surviving. And I also have a mini series called Canard Park Kids. And it's where each one of the kids is named after one of the principles of Kwanzaa. And it's their introduction and each of their own experiences.
And attire to go along with all of those 7 kids. James, you want to tell us again the title of yours? You're muted. You're muted. Okay.
Okay. I presented Purveyors and Acquirers tonight. The other books in this series that are out right now are Practitioner of the Arts is book 2. Book 3 is Opener of Doors. Book 4 is Guardian of the Trade. And book 5, Champion of the Temple, will be out later this year.
Okay. And Minnie has 2 books.
Yes. My two books, the first one is The Purple Wash. The second one is Palm Power. Both are available at the Seattle Public Library as well as all of our other books, or you can get it through Third Place Books, an independent bookseller. Plus other things that you can find on the website that tells you about many other things that we have done as a group and individually. Thank you for asking.
And Gaylloyd has poems.
Yes, I have 3 poems that you can buy at the Columbia Art Gallery. They are Controlling the Dam. Their name is Love and Creation. And I have a book that isn't published yet, but I'm working on it, and I'm looking for agents and publishers because it is finished. And the name of that is Down the Road of Peace.
I always love hearing you say the title of it. Helen, could you tell us the names of your book? Helen, you're muted. You're muted.
Am I muted now?
Now.
Okay, you can find my books on HelenCollierMeow.com. My latest book is The Unexpected 2, year 2020, when the face of America changed. And the book that I read from, which is The Unexpected, is a book of white college student who met a catfish on the riverbank and took a journey 2 centuries back. Then I wrote a book called My Oprah in Recreating the Legacy. And it talks about an 85-year-old woman who takes 7 women and transform their lives. And for 30 years, I worked on my trilogy. It's called the Miss Anna series. And its first one is Miss Anna and the Tears from the Healing Tree. The second one is a story of the 2 worlds of Miss Anna. And the third one is Miss Anna, the Promise Keeper. It's a love story about an African-American woman and a white male whose life was brought together by aliens from another world. Writing is my passion, and I always write outside of the box so that when I tell you a story, it's unexpected. So come visit me. I think you will enjoy.
Thank you. Gail has left, but she has a book, Sweet and Sassy. And I have 8 books, but in a way I cheated. My first book is Travel Tips for Dream Trips. I went on a 6-month trip around the world. And when I got back, people kept asking questions, but very often I got the same questions. So one Sunday I sat down and made a list of all the questions and answered them. And I am really glad that I did that. I think it was 1988, and ever so often I still get requests. So someone here has said, well, maybe we should do a 3rd edition. And I kept journals. And finally this year, someone put all of the journals in the book, in the computer. So I'm hoping to go back through the journal and reflect in italics and get that done. I have 4 volumes of poetry called Outside the Cave. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And some people say I should come up with another name. And I'm finally giving in, because when you have a website and they all have the same cover and the same name, it can be confusing to some people. And it's really 6 books because volume 1 and volume 2 originally had pictures in it. So you could get volume 1, volume 2 with pictures or without. So that makes for 6. And then probably my favorite is my collection of prose, because when I came to, well, when we began, I saw myself as a storyteller, and I still do. And so some of my stories are in that last book, Observation and Revelations. But I'm working on, I'm always writing, never as much as I want to. And I think that's true of most of the people here. And the other writers are all writing. And I know Santiago, probably Merri Ann, but I know Jay and Margaret have enough for a book. I know they do. They just haven't gotten together to put it all there. And I had far more than enough for a book before it occurred to me that I could have a book. But then one day it dawned on me, and that's it. That's it. So nobody has a question or a comment? I enjoyed reading the chat, but I like to look and listen, and so I don't always keep up with the chat, so I may have missed something. I know Lola Peters is out there, and Lola has written several books, the Book of David, and I don't want to get the name wrong, but it's another of the books that falls into the category of helping white people. What white people really need to know, I think is the name of it. But it's just good. We enjoy what we're doing. So does anybody else, or Rick, you're gonna say something? Anybody else want to say something?
Lola put in The Truth About White People.
The Truth About White People. Okay, The Truth About White People. And then one is Book of David, and there's another one I think of poetry too. Anybody else?
Georgia?
Yes.
Lola also writes essays and op-eds for the Southeast Emerald Online.
Yes, and for Crosscut. And I sometimes write for Southeast Emerald, not as much as I did once upon a time. I'm not quite sure why, but I write for the Less Shy News monthly, most of the time. As I said, we're always writing. Anybody else want to add something?
I would, Georgia. I just want to say, as a member of AAWA, I always feel that I'm a new member because there's so many members who have such great history, and you as one of the key founders. And I want to thank you and everyone at AAWA because of all the support. It's a really great organization and supporting writers. And without Georgia, she mentioned that I'm trying to get this book together. I have enough for a book, and I am going to be, I have a book called City Girl, Country Summer. So I hope to get that published this year. But without Georgia, I wouldn't have written something to be part of our anthology. And Georgia always says, once you're published, then I don't mean to embarrass you, but I do want to acknowledge you and all you've done for the organization and your encouragement. And you said, once you get published, Merri Ann, you're gonna get hungry. You're gonna be like wanting more, I want more. And so to have so many anthologies for our writers who maybe don't have their own books, but they're in these anthologies together, and to encourage us to keep writing. I think that's one of the strengths of AAWA. And so I want to let people know that if you are interested in being a member, please visit our website. And we are having wonderful African-American members and members from the diaspora from all over the country who've been joining us now that we've gone virtual. If you want more information, visit our website. But yeah, if you've never published and you thought about it and you weren't sure, it's really been great personally for me. And I just want to thank everyone on this call, everyone in the chat who have been encouraging of all of the writers here, and also all of those writers in our community, whether they're members or not. So thank you, Georgia. I just wanted to say the anthology was a great idea. I love it.
And may I say also, thank you, Merri Ann, for getting us involved in plays. I had never written a play before, never even thought about it. Merri Ann insisted that I could write a play. So about 6 or 7 of us got together and we all wrote plays, and they're on YouTube. awesome plays. I plan to do at least one more. So we are versus. We do a lot of things. Come join us.
And you may see the plays if you go to We Out Here. And that was a production by Michael Main, who is just, now he's doing a publishing company, you know, just wonderful young man. And I told him this year, because he just planned to do it once and then he did it again. So I said, now he's going to have to call it, We Still Out Here. You know? We don't plan to go anywhere. We will be here. If you're interested in booking us, by all means, go to the website. I love to tell people, especially when I read in February, that we read in March, April, May, June, July, you know, 12 months a year. So we're some busy little people and we enjoy being busy. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And please don't forget to check out the website. You can always find out what we're doing, can subscribe to our newsletter. That's another way to keep up with what we're doing.
Okay, Georgia.
Thank you, everybody. Yes.
So you
This
have
is Jay, and I like to piggyback on what Helen said, giving Merri Ann Osborne her flowers. That, you know, as a result, really, of her reaching out to the African American Writers Alliance and indicating that she was going to accept 6 plays and that she was going to nurture us and educate us on how to write plays. But, you know, as a result of that, I also wrote for 18th and Union a play called COVID Dreams, of which Merri Ann Osborne.
Georgia. I don't know if you can hear me now or not.
Of which Merri Ann.
Hello?
I can't mute her.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear us?
We cannot let the screen disappear without acknowledging Noni and Merri Ann, who have given us the best technical support that AAWA has ever had. And I want us all to remember that none of this could have happened without their leadership, from playwriting to saying, can I hear you or not? Okay. So Noni and Merri Ann, and of course the leadership team, but I just have to say, without the tech support people, we would be in the dark ages or back where we were only in print. So thank you, Noni and Merri Ann, very much. Okay.
Merri Ann, you were saying something. Did you finish?
Oh, Jay was saying something.
Okay,
Jay, her play.
I'm sorry, Jay.
No,
Go ahead,
that's
play.
okay. Thank you so much. I'm finished. Thank you so much.
Okay.
We did put Jay's play in the link, so check it out. It's really fun, y'all.
Yeah. And I did get to see it too, Jay. The second one I got to see. But I want to thank Rick. I don't know, I never knew if Rick and Randy knew each other. I just know she came and told us that we were reading. Eliott Bay, you know, I describe Eliott Bay now. Whenever somebody, or I tell somebody that we've read at Eliott Bay, I always say, well, that's where Clinton read. You know, they give, you know. And he could very easily have said, well, who are you? You know, or I don't let just anyone read, or you have to have something published. But he didn't. He welcomed us, and we've been welcomed here for 30 years, 30 times this is the 30th time we've read.
30th time, yeah.
And that's just wonderful. And I am convinced that very often, most people don't need a whole lot of help, you know, just a little encouragement. And unfortunately, some people live a lifetime and never get that. And I have been blessed. I've gotten a lot of it, maybe somebody else's, and I give a lot of it too. And I'm just so glad that the group has been around. And as I was telling them not too long ago, I'd like to think that 100 years from now, someone will say, well, you know, they first read at Eliott Bay back in 1992. So thank you, everybody, the audience, everybody who participated in any way, all of the Eliott Bay staff, just thank you. Thank you very much.
I
Okay.
have something. Someone put in the chat, asked about the name of the song I referenced, and it's called Society's Child by Janice Ian. I put it in the chat. I don't know if you saw it or not, but if you want to look it up.
Okay.
Thanks, Santiago.
No.
I did too want to add that we have so many new members that we have been trying to catch up. So there are members whose profile haven't been added to our authors page. So please, we put their information in the chat, but please stay in touch with us. And we like to spotlight a member every month, and so that you can get to know them a little bit better. But you know, it's a wonderful group. So thank you.
And we got some subscribers tonight, and we want to thank you, subscribers, you know. And if you want to be a member, just go to the webpage and you'll find all of the instructions there. And just listen for us, because we do indeed read all over the place whenever we get the opportunity. Thank you. And I guess I can say good night.
And I'll just, my last very small little word, because so many other thanks have been extended, but it's to say everyone should have their calendar for Saturday, February 26, 2022, which, if for all the other things that will happen between now and then, we should all be able to be together in person and to really celebrate the 30th anniversary of this. And we'll have to figure out what to do special.
Well, did somebody get a picture? Do we have a screenshot of this? You know, this is just good. Well, oh, okay, look at there.
I took one, but you guys want to get one where everybody's smiling? I got a couple candids.
We can do that.
We're missing Gail, so we'll superimpose her in there somewhere.
We could even have a calendar, you know, right?
All right, 1, 2, 3.
Rick, why did you do that?
I'm not good in pictures.
Neither am I. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Stay safe and healthy.
Yes.